Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Dusty, and I am the host of the 321 Report. I am so happy to have all of you with me today. This evening, tonight, we have a very special show. I have been reading a couple of the messages, and Xander posted this. Trigger warning to all moms. And I saw some posts about like Rebel Girl. She said that she wasn't sure that she'd be able to stick around because she has lost a son. I think that you would be okay sticking around tonight. My guest is a pretty amazing person. She's not going to go into a whole lot of details about certain things, but she is going to share a lot of her experiences since losing her son. So I would suggest you stick around, and if you feel like you can't handle it after that, then by all means, just go ahead and come back some other time when we're having a different topic. But I think you're going to be okay because I've talked to this guest many times about this subject, and she's really got the strength that you probably want to emulate if you have a similar situation. So just letting that out there, just in case some of y'all are doubting that you want to stick around. So I'm going to go over a few things real quick, and then we will bring on my guest. She's backstage right now listening to us, and she's excited to talk. I told her it's just going to be like her and I is going to be sitting here chatting. We do that every once in a while. We'll Zoom each other and chat for a couple hours, and I really enjoy talking to her. She's one of my best friends in the world. So, all right. So I'm going to go down the list that I got, and there's a lot of not a lot, but a few things that I want to hit on because I've been going through some of like Reddit and stuff like that, and you get a lot of information from sources like that in cases such as the Suzanne Morphew case or the Delphi case. You got to take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt, but you can also get a lot of information there because there's a lot of people that use those sources that have a lot of information or a lot of experience in different areas. So one of the things I've seen in the past 48 hours is there's a lot of chatter on Reddit about the Delphi case. There was a person in one of the Facebook groups on Delphi, and they claimed to have a lot of information, and they were answering questions and they were giving out information that we haven't heard before. I'm not going to repeat any of that because I don't know. I haven't done enough research, but I am going to say that I have been doing, since I spoke to Kelsey German, who is, for those of you who don't know what the Delphi case is, I'll just briefly go over that. Back in 2017, two young girls, 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German, they went missing on February 13th, 2017, and they were found the next day murdered on February 14th, 2017. They got video of a guy walking towards them. They call him the bridge guy. They have his voice recorded, and 4 years later, they still haven't figured out who this person is. So I have been researching this a lot lately, ever since I talked to Kelsey, who is Libby's sister. I interviewed her. If you want to go look at that video, it's on my channel in the live videos. And I've been doing a lot of research on this one person of interest that has caught my eye. I'm not going to mention any names, but I have been putting together a presentation, and I'll probably do a video about that soon. I still probably won't name names, but I'm going to give you a lot of information that I've uncovered that points in this person's direction. So I'm not going to put somebody out there on blast that I don't have enough info on, but I am going to show you the connections and why I think there's a high possibility that something could be going on there. So stay tuned for that. I came across something really interesting today, and I'm gonna pull that up. I have pictures of it, so bear with me. I'm gonna grab those really quick. Sorry, guys. All right. So, actually, you know what? I think I'll do it like this. I am going to just go to the web page, and I'm going to share that screen. Let's do it that way. All right, cool. So, this is what I want to share right here. So, I know you probably can't see this, but I'll read it to you. I was looking through I followed a link to this page, or to this Imgur. I think that's how you say it. But I followed it here to look at something else, and then I hit the arrow over here, and it took me to this page, coincidentally. And it says, this is posted by, I'm not even going to try to say that last name, but her name's Jenny. It says, 48 years ago, my Aunt Carmen Toledo went missing. Despite all efforts made during that time period, there were no solid leads as to her disappearance. This mystery has plagued our family for decades, all these years with no information and no closure. My grandmother, may God rest her soul, passed away without knowing what happened to her beautiful daughter. Social media is a powerful tool, so I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, we might discover new information, if any. My family just needs closure. Whatever the outcome, can I ask that all my Facebook family please share this post and make it go viral for the sake of my family, the pain they have all endured for almost 5 decades. From the bottom of my heart, my family and I thank you. So I saw this and I wanted to share it. This person's name is Carmen Toledo, and she was 12 years old when she went missing. There's a better picture of her right there. It's another one. This is when she was in junior high, 1972. Age 12, she has long black hair, brown eyes, weight 110, height 5'1". She was a 7th grader at Herman Riddle Junior High School in the Bronx. So if you have any information, contact Jenny directly at facebook.com/Jenny with JENNY.LABORICUA. That's pretty cool. So I think I'll put the link to that. If I like to see things like this, because you never know. You never know if we can help somebody like that. So, all right. I don't really have much on. Hold on a second. Mouth's getting dry. I don't have a whole lot on the Suzanne Morphew case. I know there's been a lot of stuff been talked about on other channels. Yeah. So, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But I will say that I'm still really concerned about this case. I'm still looking into it. Might not post a whole lot of it right now, but I am researching it just about every day. I was actually just talking about it with someone this afternoon. So, and we were going over some stuff. So anyway, All right. So I'm not going to waste much more time talking about these cases. I don't really have much else. I know y'all have sent me a lot of cases that you want me to cover, and I am looking into them. I promise. Anything you've mentioned to me, I've looked at. I've looked at the Maya Millette case. I'm looking at the West Boys case. I'm gathering info on all these. Some people are sending me a bunch of info, so I'm putting all this together. It just takes time when you're new to a case, and I haven't researched those before, so I'm trying to put everything together. If any of you have any information that you want to send me that you think will be help me in creating a video for both of those cases or any other cases, just send it to the 321 report at gmail.com. So that's the best way to reach me. All right. So I'm going to introduce to you one of the best people I know and one of my favorite people. When I talk to this person, it seems like that we've got some connection beyond, just talking. Just it seems like what we always say is it seems like our spirits can talk to each other, and I know that might sound weird to a lot of you, but we just seem to have a lot in common as far as I don't know. There's a lot of different things that we've been through in our lives, and then a lot of and plus she's my first cousin, so anyway. So her name is Sharlen Draper Potter. She's one of the most amazing people I know. So I'm going to bring her on, and I'm going to unmute her mic because I know she wants to talk. Well, hello.
Hi, Dusty.
Are you comfy?
I'm comfy. Do I look like it?
Yeah, you do. I wish I had a big pillow.
Good.
So, Sharlen, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you tonight is because, like I told you, I get a lot of emails and messages when I go over these cases, or when I share something, people talk to me about losing a loved one, either to overdoses or suicide or just natural cause or whatever the case may be. They've had some type of loss of a family member, a loved one of some sort, a friend, and I want to help them, but I haven't experienced that kind of stuff at a level that they have. I don't know what they're going through, and I don't know how they're feeling. So I know that you do. I know that you know what it's like. So I just want to start off. Maybe you can tell them your story about Colton, and yeah, go ahead and take it from here.
Okay. Well, Colton is my only son. I have 4 children, and he was in the birth order, the second child. So I had a daughter, and then Colton, and then 2 more daughters. And because of him being the only son, the only boy in our family, I think from the very beginning that made him special, unique, but just because of his personality, all of our lives revolved around him, all of the girls. And he was such a bright, shining light. When he walked into the room just lit up. Wherever Colton was, that's where the party was. And on August 28th, 2007, he was getting ready for his last day at work. And he was working for a man who he was had his own business laying hardwood floor. And Colton had been working for him. This was his 3rd summer. And he looked at me, and interestingly enough, I didn't even think about this till just now, but my bed was in my bedroom exactly where it is right now. And I was sitting right here on this bed, and I looked out across kitty corner, across my hallway into his bedroom, and he was standing there in front of the internal wall. And I just looked at him, and I just had the thought that I didn't want him to leave, and that I wanted him to stay home that day so I could talk to him. Because you see, Colton was getting ready to leave on a full-time 2-year mission for our church. And he was headed to Lisbon, Portugal. And he was 15 days away from leaving. And we had been doing a lot of work and getting him ready, getting him prepared to, for him to be out of the country for 2 years, not see him for 2 years. And we had a list of things that we had to get for him, and we'd been doing a lot of shopping and saying goodbye. And we have what's called a farewell in church. So only 2 days before, on Sunday, he had his farewell, and he'd given a talk and said goodbye to everyone. And we have a goodbye dinner, a farewell dinner afterwards, and all the close friends and relatives come and wish him well and send him off. And we had just done that. And I just had this thought that I didn't want him to go, that I wanted him to stay so I could talk to him. And I looked across that hallway and I said, Colton, don't go. And I was a personal trainer, and it's never happened, but all of my clients all bailed on me, sent me text messages and bailed on me that morning. And I was just sitting there watching him, and he just turned to me and said, "Why, Mom? What do you need?" Now, let me say, Colton was 19 years, 6 months, and 1 day on the day of his accident and his passing. And I looked at him, and he looked so beautiful and so bright and so amazing. And I just kind of shook my head and told myself, I'm just starting to realize that he's going to be gone, and I'm not going to see his face for 2 years. And that was the kind of relationship that we had. And he was, we were really connected to each other, but really Colton was that way with everyone. His dad, his 3 sisters, all of his friends, everyone described him the exact same way. And he drove down the road about 8:30 that morning. He hung around and he talked with me, and he was late going to work, and I kept worrying about it, but I was so grateful for every second. And we live in a little valley where there's only one road in or out of that valley. And, oh gosh, I don't know, a little while later, a couple hours later, I had to drive down the road and go help my daughter, who was a junior in high school, work with her schedule. It was only 5 days into the new school year, her junior year. And I went down, and right when I got to the school, and it takes about 15 minutes to drive to the high school from our home, his boss called, and he called me on my cell phone, and he said, "Hey, Colton never made it to work. Would you like me to drive up the road there that you live on? It's a mountain road." And he said, "Would you like me to look for him?" And I went, no, Colton's fine. I don't know where he is, but he's fine. He'll turn up. And I said, "If I hear anything, I'll let you know." And he said, "Okay, I'll do the same thing." Now, this was very unusual for Colton, but I wouldn't let myself believe that or let myself freak out, because my son was 2 weeks away from going on a mission for God. He, in my mind, was protected. He was the safest he'd ever been in his whole life, because this kid got in trouble sometimes, and he did a lot of mischievous things. And, he was a boy, and all boy. And so I could not wrap my mind around, and I blew all that off. So I went in and I helped my daughter with her schedule, and I called Colton, and it went right to his voicemail. And that didn't worry me too much, but Colton would always answer me if he was working hard. He would always answer me and get back within about 30 minutes. And that didn't happen. So I kept calling him, and it kept going to his voicemail. And I forgot to tell you, when I said to him, "Colton, stay home with me," and he said, "Why? What's up? What do you need?" And I said, why did I say that? Why did I ask him that? And I said, I don't know, Colton. I just want to talk to you today. I want to stay home and spend time with you. And he turned and looked at me from his bedroom facing that internal wall. And he said, no, Mom, not today. He said, every day after this is my last day to drive down this road and go to work for Justin. And every day after this, I'll be working for the Lord, and I can't wait. And I had some smart alecky comments in my mind, and I thought, every day? I mean, what about just for 2 years? Or, what about the next 2 weeks? You going to drive up and down this road, knock on doors, and start, preaching right now? But I didn't. Something told me to keep my mouth shut, and I actually listened for once. And he left, and it turns out, after looking for him and calling around for, I don't know, probably 4 hours, my daughter that I'd helped with her schedule, she missed lunch because we were working in the counselor's office. So I drove her down to a little local restaurant, got her some lunch real quick. And the more time that went past, it was getting harder and harder to breathe. And the conversation that was going on in my head and in my heart was getting louder. I was trying to push it down. But, my daughter was saying to me, Mom, do you need me to help look for Colton? And I said, oh, no, he's going to be fine. I'd called my oldest daughter, and who's married, and she had a little baby boy. And I said, hey, if you hear from Colton today, we're looking all over for him. Nobody's been able to get a hold of him. Let me know. So she was looking for him. I called my husband. My husband was looking for him. He left work and was driving home from Salt Lake City. He was looking for him. And I was telling my daughter, no, he's going to be okay. And after getting her lunch, I was driving down Main Street and back up Schoolhouse Hill, they call it. And as I was making a left-hand turn and I was getting ready I was stopped there at the bottom of that hill. It's just a little, one lane each direction right there. And I was waiting for my turn, but because all these cars were coming this direction, and I counted 6 county sheriffs, deputy cars coming past. And they all had their lights on, but none of them had their sirens going. And I just sat and watched them in my rear view mirror. As I watched them in my rear view mirror, I watched them turn up the road that leads to our little valley. And I sat there and I went, and I just had this sinking feeling inside of me. There were too many coincidences. And I just prayed and I said, dear God, please don't let those policemen be racing towards my boy. And then they went past and I drove up and dropped my daughter off. She only had about an hour or 2 left of school by now. And told her I'd see her at the end of the day. And then I drove away and started heading towards my house. And I got a phone call, and it was my oldest daughter. And my oldest daughter said, Mom, go home. And I broke down and I started to cry, and I started to let that anxiety and that fear start. I started sharing it with someone finally. And I said, Caitlin, I said, I'm afraid to go home because I'm afraid he won't be there and I won't know what to do. And she said, Mom, it's okay. Go home. Now I found out why later she was able to talk to me that way, but it's been 13 and a half years now. And that day, as I did what she told me to do, she gave me some direction. I drove up that road, and as I got to a place where you go around a bend in the mountain that is right above where the city limits are done, because we live in a farming community, and we built our home on the farm that my husband grew up on. And all the houses up where we live are quite far apart. And I saw one of those police vehicles going like this across the road, blocking both lanes of traffic. And I was on a mission now. I was trying to get home. And my daughter told me to get home. And I just had to get there because in my mind, that's where I was going to find Colton or hear from him. So this policeman wouldn't let me past. And as I pulled closer to him, I saw my husband sitting in the passenger seat of his car. And my husband was crying and he wouldn't look at me. And I was just on that mission. I had to get around these people and get to my house. And that policeman rolled down the window and he said, pull off right there in that driveway. And that driveway was the last house in city limits. And I said, no, I'm going home. And he said, pull off right there. And I said, no, I'm going home. Get these cars out of the way. And I think already my spirit knew, Dusty, what I was going to be told, and I was just refusing to hear it. And so he said, pull off over there and I'll talk to you. So I was just mad, and I was using anger energetically as a higher energy. And so I pulled into that driveway and was like, okay, I'll jump through his hoops. And I sat there in my car, and he pulled in behind me in this driveway. And I sat there and I just waited, and he wouldn't come up to me. And my husband wasn't coming to me, and it made me mad. So then I got out of my car and I walked partway towards the cop vehicle, and I went, what? What is it? And he just went like this. And I was like, what's that? He said, and I said, what are you talking about? And he went, Sharlen, he's gone. Now, this man was a family friend, still is a family friend. His son had dated my daughter, and I knew him very well. And I remember just thinking, no, my kid is going to serve a full-time mission for God. He's protected. And there's no way this could happen to him. He's been through so many other things in his life. He didn't come this far just for it to end right here. So this can't be accurate. I looked at him and I said, well, have you gotten an ambulance to him? And he said, Sharlen, he's gone. And, you know, in piecing a lot of things together and looking back at things over the years, at first, initially, it was very painful to realize I had driven right past him to go help my daughter and hadn't even been aware. But what happened is that about, I don't know, 8 miles, maybe 10, I don't know, below our house, he was driving down this mountain road and not witnessed by any other vehicle. He was driving a 2004 3/4 ton Nissan Titan truck. His truck began to meander like this. No one knows why still. And he never touched the brakes, so they couldn't get out those calipers and even determine how fast he was going. And he did that for the length of a football field. They were able to follow his tires in this straightaway. And in the straightaway on these mountain roads, he doesn't go off on a curve, on a straightaway. His truck, goes across the middle line of the road. His front left tire lines up perfectly in a guardrail where the guardrail comes down and curves like that and comes down and touches the asphalt. And it acts like a ramp. And it launches his truck perfectly into a tree. And he hits that tree, and the truck wraps around the tree and drops nose down into the river right there. Well, it was August, so the water was really, really low, so it didn't go into the water. Sat up there on this huge boulder, nose down. And many people had gone past him, me included, but a cement truck driver who sits up a little higher saw the tailgate of his truck above that guardrail, and he called it in around lunchtime. And so they stopped me, and they'd stopped the school bus and everyone because they had a crane trying to pull his truck back up on that little one-lane road. And they didn't want anyone to see him because they weren't able to get his body out of the truck. So they had to take it down to a location that was private and cut the truck away from him. So that's what happened to him. As far as science and details, worldly details. Now there's two places I can go. I can go that direction right there, the world's direction, and I can get all caught up in that stuff. Or I can go the direction that brings me peace. And that is where the man who cut the truck away from him, who was not a religious man at all, told me that he was about this far, about a foot away from Colton's face for an hour while he was cutting the truck away from him. And he just said, Sharlen, and you know me, you know I don't do religion. He said, but God was in that truck. He said, your son had no marks or blood anywhere on him, except for one tiny little drop of blood in the shape of a tear, and there was a scratch right above on his forehead. Tiny little one, that's all. And he said, he looked so peaceful, like he had just shut his eyes and gone to sleep. He said there was everything but a smile on his face, but he looked so content. He said, but the entire time I was in that truck trying to get your boy out and take care of his body, God was in that truck. And that's where I go, Dusty, because if I look back at who I was, I become confused and I become filled with sorrow and grief. And I've spent a lot of time grieving, and I still grieve now. This Saturday, the 27th of February, is Colton's 33rd birthday. And my kids and my grandkids will all come up with me and my husband, and we will celebrate Colton's birthday the best we can without him right here where we can see him, and include him as we continue to do in everything that we do. But I have to look ahead. And I think I've been able to do that with hope for the future because I have grieved in the past, and I still allow myself to grieve now because grief is not an event. It never ends. It never stops. One question people have asked me over the years is, does it ever get easier? And that's probably the question I've had asked most often of me. And the answer is, it doesn't ever get easier. You become stronger. And as a personal trainer, those are kind of analogies I use. So it's like lifting weights. Once you carry something that's that heavy, it's really hard to at first. It's very difficult. You don't know if you can ever lift that heavy of a weight again. You don't know if you can ever wake up and function again. But as you continue to try, you do get stronger and you do lift the heavier weight. And that's what happens. You get strong enough to carry it. And I didn't want to not give my girls and my grandsons. I have 3 daughters and 5 grandsons and 1 more grandson on the way. And I did not want to give any of them the kind of life they didn't deserve. I wanted to give them the same kind of life that they had while Colton was here and that they were part of. And I felt they deserved it.
I didn't know a whole bunch of that. I know we talked about it before, but that's a little more detail than I've ever heard before. And that really hit me hard when you were talking about that. I know you had to be strong for your girls. They were still young. I mean, two of them were younger than Colton when he passed. And I know you did an amazing job because I know your girls, so I know you did.
Thank you.
Yeah. But can you tell me, besides the obvious, how did your life change from that moment that Colton passed? What was different besides the obvious stuff?
Everything. Nothing was ever the same again, ever. It couldn't be. A whole new set of lenses, a whole new perspective, many perspectives. We lost all of our normals. So the way we interacted with one another changed. All of our holidays changed. So that became ground zero. We had to start all over from scratch. That's part of the grief work. And we had to recreate all of our holidays and celebrations and gatherings and the way we did everything, because nothing, a huge part of us was missing.
Yeah.
So that's hard work. And we would try to go back. That's why I said when I looked backward, things were confusing. We tried to do things exactly the way that we'd done them all before, and nothing felt right. It was too painful to do that. So that's why I said we had to go on and look forward and look ahead and try to figure out what felt right now in this moment.
Yeah. I'm looking through the comments here, and I knew this was going on. This was going to happen because of the messages that I told you I get a lot. So I'm going to share a couple of them.
Okay.
It says there was one person here. It says the video cut off right when we're being told what happened to Colton. So do you want to just briefly let her know what happened? I mean, I'm sure most people, I think, heard it, but yes, it would just tell her, it was a car accident or whatever.
So Marie Giblin asked, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. He was in a truck, and it was a single unwitnessed car accident. He was driving down the road, and as far as they can tell, his truck lined up the front left tire in a guardrail where the guardrail curves down and touches the asphalt, and it acted like a ramp, and it launched his truck into a tree. And the cause of death on the autopsy was a skull fracture that said killed him instantly.
Dang. I like this. There's a few of them like this, but I know that you know this is true. I know that we've talked about this many, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it says Colton is serving the Lord, higher source, because he was so special. God's eyes, he called him home. I truly believe that. I mean, I more than just believe it. I know that it's true, because I couldn't be upright, and I couldn't even be talking to you about this now, Dusty, without, I mean, I haven't shed a tear yet, and I'm amazed by myself. But I got to tell you all, and I got to tell your listeners, Colton's sitting right here next to me. And I know that because he told me he was, and people can say what they want to say. This is your 21st episode. You told me that, and you just barely found that out yesterday. Yep. Colton's football number was 21, and that was totally unknown and unplanned. Mm-hmm. Colton's football number was 21 in high school, and we see my family, we call it divine math. Colton's number pops up everywhere on hotel room doors and streets that we're going down. And it's just, I've never seen 21 so much in my whole life. And this is year 2021. So actually, this is another story that people might think is kind of weird, but that's okay. You can think whatever you want, because how you feel about me is none of my business. Anyway, Colton's last night on this earth. My kids used to spend, they used to take a turn sleeping in my bed with me because my husband worked a lot of shift work at night. So when they were little, they would fight, and then I had to give them their night, and they had a rotation. Hadn't happened for a long time, obviously, because they were grown. Colton was 19 and a half, as I said. His older sister, Caitlin, was 2 years older, so she was 21 and a half. My next daughter down, Sierra, was in the beginning of her junior year of high school. So she was 16 and a half. And my youngest daughter, Savannah, was 14 and a half. She was 5 days into her freshman year of high school. And I had one little grandson who was 8 months old. And Colton, that Monday night, that last night, he, after he was just so sweet with his sisters, talking to him, and they went to bed. They had school the next day, and Colton had one more day. It was the weirdest thing, but his boss said, "Hey, can you just help me just one more day? If we can just have this one more day, and you can help me get this job wrapped up, then you can go do what you need to go do and hang out with your family before you leave." And I was like, one more day. I was looking forward to spending this day with you. And he said, "I know, Mom, but I promised Justin one more day. So I'm going to go work for him one more time." So that last night, Monday night, he was getting ready, and he walked in my door and he said, "Dad's not coming home tonight, is he?" And I said, "No, he's not." And he Supermaned and landed right on my bed, right where his dad slept. And he said, "Mom, I'm going to sleep here with you tonight, just like I did when we were kids." And I was just tickled. And that was such a special night. I can't tell you everything we talked about because those stories are sacred to me. But that's part of me telling you how I know Duke Colton's right here next to me, because that was his name. His name is Coltan Duke Potter. Duke, after his dad's nickname, is his middle name. He laid here and he talked to me, and he woke up off and on through the whole night, and he was dreaming very intensively, and he was sharing those dreams with me. And at some point early in the wee hours of the morning, he said, I'm sorry. I know I keep jumping and waking you up. Is it bugging you?" And I said, No, Colton, it's okay." And then he turned his head to try to go back to sleep after one of these dreams that startled him. And I remember, because there's no buildings and there's no other houses around us. There's nothing but acres of land. And the moonlight was streaming through the window right next to my bed. And I looked at Colton's head, and I could see his black spiky hair because it was cut short. And it was shining. And I remember looking at his hair and thinking how Colton just always had to have his hair so perfect. Kind of like his great grandpa dude. So anyway, yeah, there he is.
Here's more the spiky one.
Yeah. So I've become aware. He's told me that he's here with me, and that's how I'm getting through this, and that's how I'm able to talk this way, because I still cry. Those are my babies right there.
Let me put them back up.
Yeah. I still cry. I that may be the first time and only time I've ever been able to tell that story that way. Such a great guy, such a good kid. Not a perfect kid, but perfectly imperfect is what a term we like to use now, along with our lives and the things that are going on. It's hard. It's difficult. Christmas sucks. But we all try to make the best of it. And interestingly enough, each one of my daughters, now let me just tell you, I'm going to go back to the pain and the grief part right now, because at 1 month out, no. I mean, I don't even know what I looked like. I didn't make a meal. I didn't cook for myself. The women's auxiliary in our church, called the Relief Society, they brought meals to my family for 9 weeks. I didn't care about eating. And if it wasn't for those women, My family wouldn't have, my two daughters and my husband wouldn't have eaten. I didn't care. And so Colton drove off the road on Tuesday morning, August 28th, 2007. And that Saturday, 5 days later, was Labor Day weekend. And we buried him that Saturday. And we were supposed to be sending him on a mission, but we were doing his funeral. So we were talking, you and I, earlier about increments and time. I remember getting up and going to my freshman daughter Savannah's first volleyball game the next Tuesday. So her games were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, Colton was passed away, was killed on a Tuesday. I lived from Tuesday to Tuesday to Tuesday, and I would count, and I'd go, I've lived through one Tuesday, I've lived through 2 Tuesdays, I've lived through 7 Tuesdays, because that was all I could do. It was all I could do to make it to the next Tuesday. But I couldn't bear the thought of my daughter in these freshman volleyball games with no one cheering for her and supporting her. So my husband and I went to all of them, but I just lived through one Tuesday at a time.
Sorry, I'm writing to somebody that's
okay.
I'm listening to you, I promise, and it's
okay.
You'll know why I'm writing in just a few. So
in 6 months out, I didn't want to live still, but I mean, I lay down every night and I did this, and I said, "Dear God, if you love me, you'll let me die tonight in my sleep and not make me wake up ever again." And then I'd wake up and I'd try to take care of my family because they deserved it. And I told you I have windows right here next to my bed. I've got a bay window. Someone came and planted a tree in honor of Colton. And every morning I would wake up and I would be in a place before consciousness. And my spirit would just start telling me, "Oh, Sharlen, you don't want to wake up. Stay there." And actually, for quite a long time, my feet would dig at one another in my sleep because my soul, which is our spirit and body combined, was in so much pain. So my feet would just tear at each other in my sleep, and it just didn't stop. And then every morning when I came to full consciousness, I'd go, "Oh, that had to be the worst dream I've ever had. Maybe that was just a nightmare." And I'd sit up and I'd look out the window and I'd see that tree. And at the bottom of that tree was a stone that Colton's graduating class from high school had made and given. And it said, "Coltan Potter, a friend forever, class of 2006. And I'd see that tree and I'd see that stone, and I would know it wasn't a bad dream. But I woke up every morning for 2 years with the hope that that was just a bad dream. It was like Groundhog Day, like the movie with Bill Murray.
Yeah, I've been to your house. I know what you're talking about, and I've seen all this stuff. I've also seen, not only in your lives, but even in my life, an effect Colton had. Before, when I found out Colton passed away, I was sitting in a prison cell. And actually, I wasn't in the prison cell whenever I found out. My dad had came to visit, and they brought me out. And I was talking to my dad through plexiglass. And he told me, and I hadn't seen Colton since he was a little kid, probably at grandma's 90th birthday or whatever it was, is when he was little. We all took that big picture.
Yeah.
And right then, I just felt so much sorrow for you and your family. And I didn't know what to do with all that. I was already sitting in prison, and I was already, not in a good place. But what I did instead was try to, do things that I thought would, I felt like he was watching over me. I already felt like grandma and grandpa were doing that because I just felt them. And then I felt like after my dad told me, I felt that connection that I had, and I didn't really know Colton before that. I feel like I know him pretty good now from being around you and your girls and everyone and Duke. But another thing that, he passed away in 2007.
Right.
My son Charlie was born in 2010. And a couple of years, it might have been 2012, whenever we got a Christmas card with this picture on it right here. That was on our refrigerator. Charlie was
that was
probably
the last family picture we took. That was in June or July of 2007.
Well, that was on our refrigerator after you sent it to me.
Yeah.
And Charlie was probably a year and a half. He was walking, I know that. And he walked up to this picture on that, and he would point right at Colton, and he would smile, the biggest smile. And I knew right then, I thought, man, they knew each other. Before Charlie came to this earth, those two knew each other. And he probably got Charlie ready to come. And I felt when I would be around Caitlin's boys, I felt the same way about that. And I felt like that was something that they had, that he had done. And that was part of his mission. So, I told Charlie that story not too long ago. Of course, he doesn't remember. He's only a year and a half, but he thought it was really cool that happened. So, I want to show you something. I didn't tell you about this. Don't be mad at me, because this is probably going to what gets you crying. But I reached out to your girls, and they recorded videos about Colton. Caitlin's having a real hard time getting hers to me. That's who I was texting while you were talking. She's like, I can't get this to load. I sent her the link. I said, just come on live, and I sent her the link. So she might show up and she might not, but she's having a really hard time.
She moved up to an area where there's not good Wi-Fi.
So she probably won't come live then. Just know that she was trying, but I think Sierra would kill me if I put this right here on. She's got one eye open and one eye closed. But here, I'm going to share it.
Let me see.
They're kind of long, but I mean, I don't care that they can have. I told them they could do as long as videos they wanted.
That's awesome.
And I would go 3 or 4 hours if I had to. I don't think we will, but if we have to, we will.
I've got to know
each of your girls, and I have a different connection with each of them. But I think that Sierra and I are the most alike, as far as we both got ADD, ADHD. We have similar senses of humor. And when we went to Jake's wedding, Jake is Sharlen's brother, and we went to his wedding in San Diego. I got to know her really good, and all your girls are amazing, and I love them. But she's one of a kind. So let me get this up. Hopefully it'll let me share it. Hold on. I might have to play Savannah's first, because let me see if that'll work. So now you tell me if you can hear this. Let me get it up first. Sorry, I always have trouble with these things. So, all right. Now tell me if you can hear it, Sharlen, okay?
Okay.
Can you see it, first of all?
I can see it.
Can you hear it?
Can't see her right now. It's just black.
Can you hear it?
Nope.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to figure this out. All right. So let me I'll do this in the background while I ask you another question, and then we
Okay.
can. Yes. So I'm gonna pull up my questions that I had for you.
One question that you asked that I remember that I wrote here, Dusty, was that you asked me how I found the strength to go on, to be a mother and a grandmother and a wife. And that answer is how I make it through all hard things now, and like how I made it through the last year of 2020 with a global pandemic and being in lockdown, and our world, all of us, all of our worlds changing drastically, literally overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I found a sign, and it came to me in quite a miraculous way, but it's just got a red barn on it. It's out in my laundry room where I spend a lot of time, and it says, always give thanks. And I will always have that sign, and I will never get rid of it, because when I do that, when I find the reason to be grateful, it softens my heart. And if you, it was so amazing to me, and so healing is the word I guess I really want to use, that even in the face of the most profound grief and sorrow I have ever felt in my life, and that anyone can ever feel. I've been told this over and over again by counselor after counselor, that they can measure all kinds of different pain on a scale of what's called DOLES,
Mm-hmm.
and that the pain of a parent losing a child, no matter what the age is, doesn't matter if the parent's in their 90s and their child's in their 40s or 50s, or if it's a mother who's lost a child whom she hasn't even given birth to yet. It doesn't matter. That pain is immeasurable. And it's the greatest pain, I've been told by many psychologists, you can ever suffer. And when I was in that pain and in that sorrow, in the depths of it, the deepest, darkest abyss of it, I could, if I would try, find the reasons to be grateful. And that has got to sound so counterintuitive right now, but it was the only thing that brought me peace. So I kept looking for the things that I used to use, like, I don't know, going and checking out into a movie, getting a book and reading a book, or going and eating something I liked. Oh my gosh, all those things were so lame. They were all such little tiny band-aids that I realized were all nothing but huge distractions. And so I changed what I used my time for, and I started to look at things differently, obviously, instantly, but I started looking for the reason to be grateful. And when I could do that, I would start to chip away. I called it taking out my little pink lady hammer, because a shell would start to try to form around my heart every day. And when I could feel myself starting to get hard, and people would tell me, oh, we wouldn't blame you if your heart got hard. Nobody would blame you. God wouldn't blame you. And instantly the thought came to me, well, I would blame myself, because I would know, who would I be for myself, let alone anyone, if I just became this hard-hearted shell of a person? So I started every day. I had to actively work at that, chip away at that shell that would try to form around my heart. And the way that I did that was by looking at what I had to be grateful for. And I still do that, and I still use that as a coping skill to this day. And it, like I said, it's what gets me through all hard things. And the amazing thing about it is when you do that, it changes your brain the way that always looking at negative things change your brain. And it always grows your gratitude gets bigger. It feels like your blessings get bigger.
Yeah, and I've had to deal with that in my life. I heard something that from um, a lady that was actually, her and her husband were serving a mission here in our area in Bowling Green, and they were
Uh-huh.
from Utah.
Oh,
And they helped me start the addiction recovery program here.
okay.
We didn't have one here, so they kind of spearheaded that. Her and her husband. There was Elder and Sister Wood, and what she told us one time during one of those meetings was, she looks at a hard heart like that hard ground before you plant something,
Mm.
and you have to get through that hard layer of soil that to get the seed planted and to get down to the part where you can actually work with. And I thought that was an amazing analogy, because you always hear somebody say, you have to get past that. You have to not have a hard heart, and you have to be willing to, put that away, and, a broken heart. And you look at a broken heart and a contrite spirit,
Mm-hmm.
you think of it as soil, broken heart. You have to break it to be able to plant that seed. So it made a lot more sense to me when you hear that term, a broken heart. When you go to the Lord and you want help, you have to have a broken heart and a contrite spirit,
Yeah.
so he can work with it, so he can plant that seed.
I came to learn over time, 1 year out, 6 months out, I still don't remember much from that time, but 3 years out from Colton's accident. Now, remember, I thought I was sending my kid on a 2-year mission, and then he was going to come back. This was an accident. This wasn't a prolonged illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a great shock to all of us, especially when someone's preparing to go serve the Lord. And so my heart wanted to be angry at God at first. It wanted to, but I never could, because I kept asking him. I kept saying, "Did you just look the other way when my son drove off the road that morning?" And the answers came to me because I kept searching, and because I kept asking for them. Now, something that you said made me think of something else. And when you talked about that hard ground and a broken heart and a contrite spirit, I hated being broken. I cried everywhere. Everywhere I went. I cried in church. I cried in the grocery store. People would see me. I'd see them at the other end of the aisle, and they would just flip real quick and turn around and walk the other way. And I had women tell me it was too painful to even look at me, because I was living a reality that none of them ever wanted to face. And none wanted to admit to themselves that could ever happen to them. And so I just felt weak, and I was physically weak, and I was spiritually weak, and I was emotionally weak. And one day a counselor said to me, "I'd like you to stop using the term weak." She said, "Because, she said, do you realize that you're upright and walking and talking, and you're dressed, and you drove down here, you made the appointment to come here, and you're looking for help in how to grieve?" She said, "Does that sound like a weak person to you?" She said, "So stop saying it, because you're not weak." And the other thing I learned is through that whole process, because I've learned a lot of things. And one of the most important things is, as much as I hated being weak or feeling weak, because the world makes fun of weakness, is that's where the Lord can reach us, when we're that way. And that's what you just said. That's what you just described. So he loved me in my weakness. My brokenness made me need him.
Yeah.
It compelled me to need him. When you have everything you need physically and all the resources you need, and you got plenty of food, and what would ever cause you to turn to God or to the Lord ever? What do you need him for? So
Yeah.
I was
So
driven
I
on
think
my
I
knees
got these
before him.
working for you with your girls there. So yeah, I can relate to what you're saying as far as needing the Lord when I finally had to face the facts that I was an addict and I needed the Lord's help. I mean, I had to get to that point for myself to need him like that, because there's no other way I could have done it. I don't think. I think that was just what my plan was. That's what he had. Well, I guess his plan for me was to get me to that point, because nothing else was reaching me. I wasn't. I was just pretty much on self-destruct mode for a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think I might have got your girls' videos ready. Let me check.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to get. I don't want to get your hopes up, just in case. But
Too late.
Ptsd, thank you for reaching out and asking us to answer these questions. It was nice to have the chance to ponder on the questions that you asked and recall.
So, could you hear her?
I can hear her. Yes.
Okay. I forgot to preface this by, these are the questions I asked the girls that they could pick from any of them or answer all of them. I said, the first one was, how did Colton impact your life?
Okay.
The second one was, how will you honor his memory?
Okay.
The third one was, what do you wish you would have said to Colton before his accident? And the fourth one is, do you think missing him will ever get any easier?
Okay.
I think I already knew the answer to the last one, but the rest of them, I haven't watched these, by the way. I got about halfway into Sierra's, and then that's when I asked you if Colton had ADD, and so then I stopped it. So
Okay.
Some of the memories that I have with my brother and the impact that he's had on my life. One of the first things I was able to recognize in a way that he impacted me was just, he had such a genuine way about him. He was very kind-hearted, easygoing, and loved to make people feel good. It was very difficult for people to be in his presence and not leave feeling like they had been paid attention to and that there was someone who cared who they were. And I realized that shortly after he passed, I had started to look for that in friendships and relationships, and I didn't find it very frequently, if at all, and it was very frustrating to me to feel like I was unable to fill that void, that gap that was missing now. But later, as time went on, I feel like instead of trying to find that in other people, I have tried harder to become that for others. I've tried to be the person that is kind-hearted, that is welcoming to anyone, and that after they've left being with me, they feel like they've been left in a better place for having spent time with me. Another impact that has been pretty difficult, I know each person in my family felt connected to Colton in a very specific and individual way, and like he was almost the anchor for our family in many ways. For me, that specific connection was both of us have ADD. Maybe that's not the best thing to share, but it really helped me to feel understood and heard. I knew that Colton was a person who could look at the situation and understand what I was thinking and the reason that I was thinking it, and having that connection missing has been really difficult. I don't feel that I'm often able to verbalize very well my thought process, and it can become frustrating for me. So he's had a large impact on my life. He continues to have an impact on my life daily and the choices I make and the person that I want to be, as well as that I want to raise my children to be. I've thought really hard about how I would want to honor him. I've thought about that question multiple times over the years and have changed the way I think I can do that best. But I think for me, one of the best ways to do that is to look for the people that are left out, that are often unnoticed or wouldn't be missed, and to reach out to them, to be kind to them, to make sure that they feel heard and cared for, and make them feel like they're important, because that's something that he was able to do for many people, especially those that were considered underdogs or maybe not as cool or popular or whatever. Another thing that I have tried to do to honor him that was very difficult in the beginning is to not ignore his imperfections and not romanticize the dead, if that makes sense. I feel like it's very easy after a loved one passes away to focus on specifically the good and try to forget mistakes that they made or not talk about them or not bring them up, because that's not what you want to think about. You don't even want to think about that when they're alive. So when this person has gone, when they're dead, it's difficult to hear stories of stupid things they did or things they said that they shouldn't have when they were in their youth. And I've realized that those imperfections were part of what made Colton. And not only that, they're part of what made him human, which is how I'm connected to him. And not trying to hold him up to a standard of perfection that he did not attain in this life makes it easier for me to forgive myself as well and others around me for the mistakes I've made, because he is someone that I look up to so greatly and holds such importance in my life that if I allow myself to think on his mistakes from time to time or remember something stupid he did, then it allows me to say, you know what, that's a person who I love and hold very dear, and I've made mistakes too, or this person has made a mistake, and I'm able to overcome that and still see the great person that they are or that they're trying to be and feel that same love for them. One thing that I feel very fortunate about is that I don't have any regrets about my relationship with my brother. We were very close, and I've since felt his presence with me on multiple occasions, and I'm grateful to have had that. The morning that he passed away, I woke up to get ready for school and decided I didn't need to get ready because I was lazy. So I went to my mom's room. I was going to climb in bed with her and go back to sleep for a few minutes, and when I walked in the room, Colton was already in the bed. And I remember thinking to myself something about he was too big, or I don't know, that I just wish he'd get out of my way so I could go back to sleep. And that's one of the few regrets that I have, is just not climbing in that bed and laying down with my mom and my brother that day. And maybe having told him one more time that I loved him. I know that he knows that I do, but I would have liked to have had that be the last conversation that we had. A lot of people have asked over the years if it gets easier to deal with grief or to miss someone after they've passed away, and it could be different for many people, but my answer is no. It almost feels like it comes in waves. There are times where I feel much stronger, and there are certainly times where I feel like I've barely got my head above water. Many of the people in my immediate family struggle with PTSD after Colton's death, and that has been really difficult to deal with. I've learned some different coping mechanisms. Some are healthy, some may not be, but I've come to a point in my life where I Google movies ahead of time before I watch them so that I know if there's a scene or something that might upset me and trigger a panic attack. especially if I'm going to be in the company of someone else that's not a family member or may not understand my situation. It also means if I'm just watching TV, if a commercial comes on, I pay attention pretty quickly to the tone of the commercial, the music that's playing, and as soon as I see any sort of commercial where someone's in a vehicle and looks down at their phone, and I know it's going to portray a car crash, I don't watch it. And I try to plug my ears or distract myself because I know that it will cause a panic attack. So no, missing him has not gotten easier. There are ways I've learned to deal with it and overcome it. But no, it hasn't ever gotten easier. I'm grateful for the relationship that I have with him, and I'm certainly grateful for the way that my relationship with each of my family members has developed because of him and because of our desire to be the best people that we can be and see him again. But I miss him every day.
That's a picture I was talking about. I better get that off there. What an amazing person she is. I love her.
She is.
A lot of what she said, I totally get.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved what she said, because it's my reality, is trying to verbalize your thought process.
Yeah.
I have ADHD, and it's, if somebody hasn't been through it, they don't know. Like, it's the nonstop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts going through your head. It's like a circus going on in there.
Yeah.
And it's really neat that Colton and her could understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of my favorite people. I don't think she knows this, but that rooting for the underdog, outcast, looking for those, that goes way back in our genealogy. It's not, she might have thought she came up with that, but that's well seated in all our genealogy.
Yeah, it's in her DNA, isn't it?
And absolutely. I wrote down the note Draper gene, and I wrote down everyone that I could remember that there's a story about that did that. And, and our grandparents are one of the, I think because they felt like that. They felt like they were those outcasts, sometimes.
Yeah, I'm certain.
Yeah. I loved what she shared. And I'd miss her. I mean, the last time I saw her was at her wedding,
Mm-hmm.
That was a special moment, or a special time in
all of
my
us
life.
too.
Well, let me get Savannah up. So that's your third child, Sierra, I forgot to introduce her. That was Sierra.
Uh-huh.
And Sierra is pregnant with her second child.
Mm-hmm. Second boy.
And how old is her little boy now?
He was 1 in December.
Awesome. That's so cool. All right. I had to process these videos while you were talking earlier.
P.S. Her little boy is named Colton.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was something with the middle name Colton, but yeah, that's awesome.
No, he's his dad's name is Nicholas, and his name's Colton Nicholas Owen, and they call him Cubby because when he's hungry he growls like a bear.
I remember now that because I told her that they named him after me because my middle name's Nicholas. I said, You named your kid after me, even though her husband's name is Nicholas. All right, here's Savannah. Savannah's the baby.
Yep.
She's the one that was a freshman playing volleyball.
Right.
Okay. And you know what I thought was so cool about Sierra's? You didn't know I was making these videos with your girls. And she mentioned Colton being in your bed after you mentioned it. Yeah. I saw your face light up whenever she said that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Okay. In case you can't tell by looking at me, I've already filmed this a few times. But I'm going to try and make it through without sobbing or without having one of my dang dogs interrupt me. So, Number one, how did Colton impact your life? So I want to answer this in two different ways because I think he still does impact my life. So growing up, I was the youngest of 4 siblings, and we grew up far out of town, away from civilization, any grocery stores, movie theaters, any of that good stuff. So my siblings and I really were best friends, and we still are. But not only having Colton as my only brother, but my older brother, I think the biggest way he impacted me growing up was he never treated me like I was too dorky or too young to hang out with him or to be around he and his friends. Even throughout high school, as he started getting older and started being able to drive and bringing his friends and things up around our house, I never got that feeling from him that he was too cool or that he didn't want me around. And that was something that really impacted me growing up. And not only that, but he really taught me a lot, and he would take me, we would be driving home from somewhere, and just out of nowhere, he would decide that he wanted to teach me something. There was one time in particular where he taught me that if you're speeding and you see a cop, if you pull the e-brake instead of tapping on the gas, the cops won't see your brake lights. So sometimes the things he taught me maybe weren't always in line with the best of teachings, but he taught me so much, and he was never too cool or too old for me, I think was the biggest impact. And just his example of the way that he lived his life, and he really worked hard, and he did everything with all that he had, and he was never perfect by any means, and he didn't profess to be, or he didn't need people to think that he was. But he worked hard, and he had big goals and at everything that he did, and that's something that I've taken, I feel like, into my personal life as well. And I think also his example of nobody was ever, Colton was never too cool for anybody. There was never anybody that Colton wouldn't hang out with. He didn't hold judgments against people. And that really impacted me, and I feel like I've tried to emulate that as well. But he still impacts me now. He might even impact me more now that he's gone. I think about him all the time. I think about him in the decisions that I make. And I hope that the decisions that I make would make him proud and make my family proud. And I think there are so many things, especially about the LDS church, that a lot of people don't understand or might think are odd. There are people that I know that within the church or have left the church that have decided they don't agree with this or that. And I'm not professing to have all the answers, because I definitely don't. But I think the biggest impact Colton has had on me is I will do whatever it takes to get back to him and to be with my family forever. The second question is, how will you honor his memory? I try to honor Colton's memory in the way that I live my life. I try to do things that I think would make him proud, make my Heavenly Father proud of me as well. And I think I try to honor him by refusing to stop talking about him or refusing to share his stories. There are moments when people ask you, how many siblings do you have? It would obviously be easier for me to say, oh, I have 2 sisters, because then the uncomfortable conversation of, oh, well, I have 2 sisters and 1 brother, but he passed away. You can tell when you tell people that it makes other people uncomfortable, but I refuse to dishonor Colton in that way. No matter how uncomfortable it might make other people. And I share his stories whenever I can. I share them with people that know him, and I share them with the people that didn't know him or didn't have an opportunity to know him. And I think the biggest way that I try to honor Colton's memory is by loving the people around me. I have a very tight circle of people that I love, and as I continue to grow older, I think that circle kind of gets smaller and smaller. But for the people that are in that circle, I would do anything for those people. And I hope they know that. And I try to love those people with everything that I have. Because to do any less would be a dishonor to Colton and to the sacrifices that he's made for our family. The third question is, what do you wish you would have said to Colton before his accident? I think this question can be kind of tricky because if you're in that stage or you're in those stages of grief, I hope people don't dwell on this question because it kind of implies that you have regrets. And I think it's important that people know that as long as that person knows that they were loved, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but you can't go back and change anything. So as long as that person knows that they were loved, I think that's enough. That's my personal opinion, but I think to dwell on this kind of a question could be detrimental and damaging to your growth or to passing through that grief. For me personally, I would not change anything about my interaction with Colton before his accident. He was getting ready to leave on his mission, and he and I decided to stay up late and watch a movie together. It was just the two of us. And I ended up falling asleep on his lap on the couch, and he was tickling me. And I was kind of drifting in and out, but it was such a sweet moment between the two of us. And I remember Colton telling me that he was sorry, and I thought that was odd. And he said, I'm sorry for all the times I was ever a jerk to you. And I was 14 at the time, but, you know, I guess in the back of my mind, I just thought, oh, he must just be trying to make amends before he leaves on his mission. But I understand now that his spirit knew what was going to happen. And I'm so grateful for that interaction that he and I had, and I think about it often. But for those people that didn't get that interaction or maybe feel like they didn't get to say what they wanted to say, I hope you know that that person knows that you love them. And I hope you don't dwell on these kinds of questions so much that it hurts your growth. Lastly, do you think missing him will ever get any easier? No, I don't. And I don't think I would want it to. I know that sounds kind of odd, but for me, if it did, I think that would mean that I had gotten comfortable. And I don't think that's something that Colton would ever want for me, is to just kind of sit back and let life happen to me. It's so interesting to me. It's been 13 years. It'll be 14 in August. And it's so interesting to me the way that grief can kind of just hit you out of nowhere. There are certain holidays and birthdays and events and things like that where you think about those people and you look around and you see the empty chairs, or your family keeps growing. And, you know, my sisters both have children now, and sometimes I sit and look at my nephews and I wonder what Colton's wife would have been like, and I wonder what Colton's kids would have looked like, and if they would have had his same cheesy grin. And in those moments, I can feel him with me. But even so, grief can hit you out of nowhere. It doesn't have to be at a party or a holiday. Or you can be driving and hear a song or just have a moment where you think about them and it hits you all over again. And there are moments where I've been married. It'll be 7 years in June, and my husband reminds me so much of my brother. And, you know, the way he has the relationships with his 2 younger sisters, I envy that. But the way he treats his sisters makes me so proud. And it makes me think of Colton. So no, I don't think missing him will ever get any easier. But I wouldn't want it to, because to me that would mean maybe part of me had moved on from that, or was not honoring Colton in the way that I should and in the way that I was living my life.
Sorry, I had to mute our mics. We were hearing some feedback on there, and I finally figured it out that we needed to mute our mics. But you have some amazing girls. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do. And
So you got-
were you
Go
able
ahead.
to get Caitlin's?
Yeah. As just at the right at the midpoint of Savannah's there. I think Sierra helped me get it. She said, I got Caitlin's video, and then she sent me an email. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, let me get hers pulled up. I just got done with it. What do you want to say anything about anything she said, Charlene?
No, wait till Caitlin's is done.
You got it.
I'm struggling to hold it together right now as it is.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, my name's Caitlin. I am Colton's oldest sister. Dusty asked if we would share some of our experiences with grief in losing Colton. And in order to do that, I think if I can share a small little snapshot of our lives, that will help paint a better picture for you and how we dealt with that trauma and that grief. I am the oldest of 4. Colton was 2 years younger than me, and I have 2 sisters. And we grew up on a small rural farm in northern Utah. And we used to tease and say that we lived in the boondocks because we lived so far away. The bus ride was a 45-minute bus ride to school, or it was a 20-minute drive to town to get gas. My dad drove an hour and a half to work every day, and he would usually stop at the grocery store on his way home because any big markets or big stores were about a 45-minute drive from our home. So we grew up kind of off the beaten path on a dirt road, and we didn't have neighbors and kids our age close around us. So we grew up being each other's best friends. There wasn't anybody else. I can honestly say that my siblings were my very best friends growing up. And Colton being 2 years younger than me, the majority of my memories from my childhood and into high school, he is in all of them. We drove to school together every day. He was on the high school track team with me. I remember watching him wrestle, and our lives revolved around supporting each other in basically everything that we did. He was at my track meets. I was at his wrestling tournaments. He came to my basketball games. We just did everything as a family. So we were super close, and summers where we lived were amazing. But if we didn't get along, it was a long summer because that's who we had every day to be with. And we spent our summers fishing and riding four-wheelers and doing everything that you can imagine when you live on a farm together. So Colton, being the only boy, probably shaped a lot of who I am today. I would very much consider myself a tomboy. And having him as the next closest sibling, he made me tough. I was his wrestling partner, his practice dummy at home, and we did everything together. And he was rambunctious. We spent a lot of time just being outside. We did everything outside, and he was such a happy-go-lucky person. Colton was happy no matter where he was or who he was with, and he could make anyone feel like they were the most important person. He had friends that came and talked to us at his funeral, at the viewing, and every single one of them had at some point felt like they were Colton's best friend. And I was lucky enough to be that. I got to do everything with my brother, and he championed the underdog. He wanted the best for everyone. He was competitive, but when it came to supporting or cheering on and lifting others up, my brother was the best that there ever was. And he changed my life. He made me stronger and a better person. And he made me, he gave me the confidence to believe in myself. And he pushed me to be better, and he made me realize how strong I was. And he made me a better mom. I now have 4 boys, and being able to be Colton's sister and now raise 4 boys that remind me so much of him, he gave me the opportunity to realize how short life is and that we don't have promises of tomorrow. And so I take each day, I try to take each day one step at a time, and I won't let my kids leave the house for school or for anything else without telling them I love them. And he made me realize that life is too important to hold grudges or be angry or to wish for better. Today is perfect the way that it is, and we're exactly where we're meant to be. And I'm so grateful for Colton and the way that he did impact my life. We have made it a point to keep his name alive. One of my sons and my sister has named her son. They both have been named after Colton, and we keep his name alive in sharing his memories. He was such a light to people, and I often share stories with my boys and tell them, you know, when they remind me of him, things that they do or some characteristics or stories of when he used to get in trouble and they've done something similar. We just keep talking about him because I know he is still here, and I know he is here watching over my kids and I, and we still celebrate his birthday every year. We celebrate what we call his heaven day, the day that he left, and we try to do service on that day in memory of him. And there were so many people that were influenced by Colton. I know there are people all over that are helping to keep his name alive and remember him. And I'll never forget the week that he left. He was supposed to be leaving for an LDS mission. So in a way, we were mentally preparing to say goodbye for 2 years. And I think that was a blessing because it caused each of us to take our time with him a little more seriously or to hold it a little more sacred. And Colton made it a point to spend time with each of us, even if it was just a split moment. The week before he died, he came and just stopped by my house, and I was home cleaning with my little 8 or 9 month old baby boy, and he stopped by and he did my dishes and he played with my baby and just sat and talked to me about nothing important, just talked and gave me a hug. And that's just who Colton was. He knew what you needed when you needed it. And I think that having those memories just hours before he left changed everything for me, because I can't imagine what it would have been like to lose him and feel like I had things left unsaid. I felt like he and I had been able to talk, and our family was already so close. We hug and kiss goodbye and hello, and goodbyes take 15 minutes because you can't just leave. So I don't know that there's anything different that I would do or say to him. Of course, you always wish for more, for longer, but I don't know. I don't think I would have said anything different. I think because our family always said I love you before we walked out the door, I knew that Colton knew that I loved him, and I knew that he loved me. So that's also something that's impacted my life. I don't let, even if you are a friend that comes to our house to visit, I won't let you leave without a hug. And I love you, because sometimes that's it. And I just want that person to know when they leave my house, if that's the last time they see me, that that's how I feel about them. One of the hardest questions that Dusty asked was if missing him ever gets any easier. And it never, ever gets easier. That pain, that person that's missing from Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and all of the times you get together with your family and they're not there, and you just wonder, what would it be like? That never gets any easier. But you slowly become strong enough to hold the weight of that burden. And I look at each one of my boys and I watch as they celebrate birthdays or milestones, and I watch who they're becoming, and it makes me miss him, and it makes me wonder what it would be like and what he would be doing and how he would interact with my kids and what his life would be like in his family. And that never gets easier, but I know that he has the opportunity to be my son's guardian angel, and I know that he is mine, and he watches over our family, and that makes missing him a lot easier, or makes it less painful. Easier is not a good word. It makes it less painful. And I have discovered over the last decade that grief changes, and some days it's hard. Some days are a little bit easier. Some moments are hard, and it can come out of nowhere. You can be on vacation and see something that will remind you of the person, and you experience the grief all over again. It doesn't ever go away. But it makes you a better person. And I hope that in trying to find goodness in each day, and in not letting friends or family leave without telling them how much I love them, I hope that that is how I am honoring and remembering Colton. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from grief, is it can make our hearts better or it can make them bitter. And it doesn't get easier, but we all become a little bit stronger minute by minute, day by day, to be able to hold that grief so that we can help others when they experience grief too.
I think it's very interesting that she mentioned that Colton helped. I'm getting some feedback. So is your computer turned up, Jordan? I could just hear myself and where it's coming from.
Is that better?
Hello. Yeah.
Is that better?
So, yeah. So I thought it was interesting that she mentioned Colton preparing her to be the mother to 4 boys, because I wrote that before she said it on my notes, because when she was describing Colton, you know, I've spent time at Caitlin's house, you know, when I went to Utah, and she might consider herself a tomboy, but she's also an amazing mother that loves her children. And I could testify to the fact that she does tell people she loves them and she treats when I was there, she treated me like, you know, like I didn't know her that well the first time I stayed there, but she treated me like a long lost friend, you know, and that's, and it just kept growing from there. Every time I would talk to her, see her, it was just like I've known her forever. And I think one of the reasons, because she reminds me of you so much, but she's
What
just
a
an amazing
compliment.
person. Yeah. So what'd you think of all those?
What a gift you just gave me. I mean, and it's Colton's birthday this Saturday, not mine. Although mine will be just 10 days after that, or 11 days. But I mean, I listened to the things that they were all saying, and I felt all their different, I felt their hearts, and I felt what they've learned is interconnected. And I just listened to them and I thought to myself, the three of them would not be like that without their great loss. That has made them who they are. But you just have to, oh, I just read the comment you just put up. Oh, thank you. You have to want that healing. It is hard work. You have to reach for it, and you got to go after it and get it. And those girls have all done that. And the reason why they've done it is because of the love our family has for one another, their love for Colton, Colton's love for them, and because of their understanding of who they are for God. And because we have a belief, because of our faith, that we will live again together after this life. And I just, Dusty, I don't know how people live through stuff like this without that. And I'm so grateful I don't have to.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we talk about, I do, and we have on the show talk about our grandparents, and our grandma helped raise me, and there's moments in my life, and she's probably the closest person that I've ever lost, to me. And there's moments in my life when I just want to see her again, and I can get a little bit of glimpse of what you described earlier about just take me so I could see my son, like you just don't want to wake up with that pain anymore. Just want to see Colton.
Yeah.
And I get a little bit of that sometimes, but when I look at Charlie and I think how lucky I am, and not just him, but my other children, but they're grown, So, but when I see those, him every day, and I think, man, I'm so blessed, and I don't want him to grow. I want him to stay 10's about the perfect age. He doesn't dislike us yet, and he's still fun, and he can change his own britches or whatever. So, but
There's that always give thanks principle. You feel so blessed and you're counting your blessings.
yeah, I definitely am. And, I heard everything that those 3 girls said.
Me too.
And it's so interesting how a lot of their comments interweaved each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I'm sure you've heard some of that before, but to me it was interesting because it was like each of them had their own experience with Colton, and that's kind of what they were describing. They each had their own. He never felt too grown up or too cool for any of them, no matter what age he was.
Yeah. No, I've never heard them ever describe like that. I've heard little bits and pieces of comments here and there, but I've never heard anything like what you just shared with me. So thank you for that.
Well, it was the last. I can't really take much credit for it because it was a last minute thing that I felt like I should do, and then for me and you talking, we know where those little whisperings come from, and I thought this is just too much of. We don't believe in coincidences. I know we've talked about that, and that number 21 thing you brought up earlier. I commented on Savannah's post about that not too long ago, and how I had been researching numbers and how I was interested in numerology, and I explained a little bit about the number 21, and then yesterday it just dawned on me that it was my 21st episode, and I thought this couldn't have been any more perfect, and it's just amazing how even though physically he's not in this world, it's like he's still in so many lives. You know what I mean? Like he's touching so many lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's credit to you guys for keeping him alive. You and your girls and Duke and whoever else that has taught me about it. When I went to stay with you not too long ago, it's been a long time, but it seems like it just happened. We watched videos of him blowing stuff up and jumping off cliffs, and I asked you, can you get those? And it was VHS, so it was like, oh man, I really wanted to show those, but
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But what the point I was trying to make was, I got to know him a little bit better during that time, and I got to watch it felt really like a sacred thing to watch those with you and Duke when we did.
Yeah.
And it was like that's things that you treasure, I'm sure, and you shared them with me, and I felt really special that day, and I felt connected to him like I hadn't before. So yeah. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours, if you can believe it.
Nope, I can't. But in a way I can, because we're talking about Colton.
Yeah. I was going to go through some of these because there's been some amazing comments, and there's been a lot of people sharing. Like I told you before we even came on here, there's a lot of people who've suffered loss in their lives, and they're going through grief. And this Nancy Penny, I think that I'm pretty sure she's wrote to me personally and talked to me about this. And it's things like this that really jump out at me. And
so sorry, Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy, I'm really sorry to hear about this, and you're in our prayers for sure.
Oh yes.
And, I just hate to see people. One of the reasons I wanted to do this, there's a couple of reasons I wanted to do a show like this. First of all, it was because I had all these messages, and I had all these people that have suffered these loss that reach out to me. Look at.
Oh, I love you, Savannah.
And I wanted to help them in some way, and I couldn't think of a better person to do that. Another reason I brought it up, this subject, is because in these true crime cases, we come across a lot of people that are under a microscope because of situations that happen. I'll give you an example, like the Suzanne Morphew case. Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day of last year, of 2020. And the behavior from her family has been what I would describe as pretty abnormal when somebody goes missing, especially your mother or your wife. And I don't understand the way they're acting. And I know that there's not some finality that she's gone like death, but so I don't know if there's closure, but I do know that there hasn't been what I saw tonight. You know what I mean? There hasn't been any of that. And I'm just using them as an example. I've seen it in other cases too. Like, when husbands get on the news and talk about their wife with no emotion whatsoever.
Right.
And then they're the ones that did it or whatever. So I'm trying to understand. I'm interested in the psychology and the behavioral side of a lot of this. And I wanted to show people what I feel is like what really happens. But then as doing that, you guys are not the normal. You guys have like really, really persevered through all this. You know what I mean? You guys have went above and beyond what the way you guys have handled yourselves. But in saying that, I know I'm rambling on, but to see your girls, I haven't seen that emotion in them before. You know what I mean? I've only been around them in social situations where it's a happy time. And I've never talked to them about Colton's passing like that. And I've never heard them talk like that. And it's still so raw and it's still so real after almost 14 years. And I'm so glad that I asked them to come on here and talk. It would have been amazing to have them all on here live and be able to interact with them. But I think this is better for you, I think, because you got to hear each one of them individually, one at a time. So
yeah, they're just amazing women. And as I said, because of the challenges and the trials that they've suffered, and because they've deliberately chosen to look for the good and reach for it in life, and to make use of the atonement, the Savior's atonement for us, and knowing that he has suffered and knowing that we believe we'll be with Colton again is what gives us purpose and reason for living. I'm so filled with sorrow for all of the people who don't get closure, for all of the people who don't have answers. I needed answers, and that's what I had to have in order to get peace. I don't have all the answers, but I kept putting myself in the places that I needed to be to get the answers I needed, and I wanted my answers from heaven. So I kept putting myself in the places to get those answers. And my heart goes out to all of the people who are suffering. I mean, and literally everyone in the world suffers for some reason. We grieve for lost relationships. We grieve for lost lives. We grieve for lost jobs and lost dreams. And we grieve for so many things. We're all grieving, and we're all trying to make a new normal across the whole world right now. We're grieving for our way of life that we once had, without masks, being able to see each other's smiling faces, being able to open and close our businesses at the times we wanted to, less government telling us what to do and how to do it and when to do it, and not having daily briefings and all of that kind of stuff. We're all grieving for that. And my only, all I can say is, if you have a higher power, If you don't have a higher power, find one. Find one that you believe in and have faith in, whatever it is. If you do have a higher power, go to him and pray to him and ask him for help, because all I can tell you is I've seen miracles in my life over and over again. At the very beginning, the Nissan had just started making that Titan truck. I think 2004 was the first year it was made. That's what year our truck was. And it had a recall, and it had this weird transmission thing go on. It's technical. I don't know what it is, but you'd just be driving down the freeway and all of a sudden it would just shift into something really low. Anyway, my point is, initially somebody brought up that maybe that could have been the problem. And I mean, I started going there. My mind started going, maybe I should head down that path of pursuing and going after Nissan and blaming them. And a very dear friend said to me, don't even go there, Sharlen. He said, if this was allowed by God, then it's either that someone needs to stand as witness against the evil people who've taken someone's life. You understand what I'm saying? Or it's because there was more good that can come from it. And we can make that happen if, as my daughter said, we choose to be better people and not bitter. And I mean, that's still an exercise. That's still a daily exercise. And I'm not always successful, and sometimes bitterness creeps up. And I mean, it changed all of us instantly. But we all get to choose. We get to choose who are going to be in this global pandemic, doing things we don't believe in doing, or we don't agree with, or we don't like, and our neighbors disagree with us. We get to choose who we're going to be in the face of broken hearts and broken dreams. And no matter what it is, you have to refuse to be a victim. Because even if someone has taken someone or something from you, you give them power over you for the rest of your life until you find your peace and refuse and rebuke that victimization. And so I decided to walk away from the whole Nissan thing, and I decided to just seek my peace. And I needed it desperately. I wanted it. And sometimes I turned away from it, started turning towards other things. When I felt the absence of it, I made an about face and went back the other way again. So I want the people who are listening to know, I will pray for all of you. I believe in the power of prayer. I will pray that you be able to find answers that will help you to be able to bring you peace. I'll pray for you, Dusty, that you, as I always do, to be able to continue to do all you can to shed light on, bring light, cast a light on things that have been put in the dark. And because you're doing a service helping these people, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that to know you and the spirit that you have, that you want to do this for this people and provide this service and just do what you can to help them and help them find their peace. You know, as I mentioned, Colton went off the road like 10 miles below our house here. It's the only road in or out of this valley. In order for me to go down to the little town that's below us here, this mountain valley, which has nothing up here but houses, in order for me to go anywhere, I have to drive past where Colton went off the road every day, twice. And so I don't leave my house every day, but when I do, I have to go past it twice. And at first, that seemed so cruel to me. And it felt so unkind. And, you know, now I look at that spot, and I've put metal sunflowers there, and I put a wreath there every season, and I've made my peace with it. And now I see it. And my husband said, to me, that's a place where God's hand touched the earth. And I want to tell you and these people, God sees you. He knows what you're suffering. And in all the ways that are possible that we allow him, he's trying to touch you and touch your lives as well, as you've touched my life, Dusty, and our friendship has.
Well, thank you. I'm blessed to know you. I'm blessed to know your girls, and I'm blessed to get to know Colton even after the fact, after his passing. But I feel like in many ways he's still around because of the way you guys keep his memory alive, and I love that about. Even when you send out your Christmas cards, he's still in the Christmas cards. You know, you might be a separate picture on the side with your new family picture, you know, but he's still there. And I love that. And I saw a comment here. Somebody said that one of your girls was talking about their brother in the present tense. And I thought, I mean, we believe he's still alive as far as like his spirit. So he is, you know, in the present.
Yeah, that's how we choose to talk to him when we're together. We've talked about it because you are half of your soul is your spirit, the other half is your body. Colton's spirit and body have separated for a time, but his spirit is still alive. It still lives.
Yeah.
And we try to keep that alive in us.
Yeah. Oops. I just hit the desk and shook my whole thing. This comment here is my mom, actually. She's talking about my Uncle Alvin.
Really?
Yeah. He died the same year that Colton did. And I found out about him while I was in prison also. So he was one of my favorite people when I was a child. He reminds me a lot of what your girls were saying about Colton. He was never too old to play with us, and he was an artist. He would paint, he would do different things, and I still have a painting he did for me when I was 3 years old. It's of Sesame Street, and he let me paint, and I painted one little stroke of Big Bird's beak, and it's black, and because he let me help, and he signed it on the back. I still have it. It's in my
What a
stuff.
great memory.
Yeah, it's one of the only things I have that's that old, and it was so
I'm sorry,
Mom,
Carolyn. I didn't know that you lost your brother 13 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being here, Sharlen. It's been a wonderful. I think you've helped a lot of. I told you before you came on, you're going to help a lot of people, and your response was, "I hope so." And I think that I think you did, just from reading the comments. And you mentioned something about helping people, and I think we planted some seeds today on how to do that. And we spoke a little bit about that earlier about, you know, planting seeds and helping others and not having hard hearts, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's I don't think I've ever had a live show that's went 2 hours and 8 minutes, but it doesn't seem like we've been on here that long because it's been so interesting talking about this stuff and listening to your amazing daughters. And I'm so glad that they took the time to make those videos, and Caitlin never gave up. I just got another copy of her video from one of her friends, I think. So she was putting it out there for sending it through a lot of different people. So I think that's awesome. But
thank you for this, Dusty. Thank you for this opportunity. Absolutely. And thank you for being who you are. I love you so much. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to honor Colton this way for his 33rd birthday this weekend. And thank you for the gift of allowing me to see Colton's 3 sisters through his eyes, because I just did. And what beautiful women they are. They astound me.
They're amazing. And it's a reflection of how they were raised and who you are. So just be proud of that, because you did an amazing job with those girls. So
Colton's a big part of that.
yeah, I know that. Well, I love you, and I
love
really
you too.
appreciate you being here. Don't leave. I'm gonna sign off, but I want to talk to you after this. So thank you all for being
Okay.
here. And a lot of you stuck through this the whole time, and I really appreciate it. Some of you popped in at the end, like Jen Pearson. She's always here, and I really appreciate it. And I thank y'all for all you do to support the channel. We're up to, I changed that today. Last time I had a video, we were at 1170, and now we're at 1211. So awesome. I appreciate y'all supporting me and subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, go do it. And if you got any men out there that can watch this kind of stuff, I have 99.6% female. And I sent a text to my friend Brant Taylor. You know Brant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I sent a text. I said, and I showed him the 0.4%, and I said, "That's you, man. That's you're my only male subscriber, I think." So, but I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate you being here every week. And we'll see you next time. Bye.